Welcome, everybody, to the NFL show on the Grizzly True Sports Network. I am your co-host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my other two co-hosts. First up, Dan Kornhauser.
What's up, guys? We got a lot of stuff to catch up on. First couple of days of the tampering window, first special day of free agency. Let's do it.
All right, and of course, 1981 national champion for the Indiana Hoosiers, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great. How's everybody doing?
All right, and since we're live and things are screwed up sometimes when you're live, I want to let everybody know that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or a sports book that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. All right, we're going to turn this over to our host for tonight, which will be Dan Kornhauser, because since he finished last in the NFL Pick'em show, we figured we'd reward him. So, what's been going on with free agency today, Dan, or what do you want to talk about?
How do you want to break it down, Dan? You going to do it team by team, or how are you going to do this?
All right, so my internet connection is fuzzy right now, so if something goes crazy, sorry ahead of time. But today,
so you didn't hear me.
The biggest move. What's that, Mike? What's that, Steve?
I was just going to ask if you were going to do it team by team or just signing by signing.
We're just gonna go signing by signing.
Of course, because I have it here as team by team. But go ahead, I'll figure it out. I was going to sound really intelligent too, because I got team by team grades for how they've drafted, how they've signed so far, and everything. And you just go ahead and do it player by player. No,
yeah, but we want your opinion, not some douchebag from.
No, I'm just looking at it and going like, why the hell did the Arizona Cardinals sign Colt McCoy? What a waste that is, paying the guy $7.5 million. What a waste. No, 2 years, $7.5 million.
He's a backup quarterback. It happens.
All
right, go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
So the big move today is Von Miller. It just happened not too long ago.
Left the Rams.
Left the Rams as free agent, going to Buffalo. Now, it's a 6-year, $120 million deal, but I'm sure
why
there's
would
an
you
opt-out because he's 32, about to be 3.
Why would you give Von Miller 6 years and $120 million?
Well, the question here is what's the guaranteed money? And I think it's a lot of money for a guy who turns 33 later this month. So he'll be. Yeah, and I mean, they lost to Kansas City in the playoffs 2 years in a row. The defense was the issue. I think the Bills rightfully consider themselves on the verge of a Super Bowl. Miller has played on 2 Super Bowl championship teams over the last, 7 or 8 years. And when you hear the Rams talk about the addition of Miller at last year's trade deadline, it was their most impactful veteran acquisition, they said, and that was even over Matt Stafford. That's how big a difference Von Miller made on this defense. So I think the Bills are hoping that maybe Von Miller is the difference to maybe being able to beat Kansas City and Cincinnati instead of just having a great year and losing in the divisional playoffs. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that, guys, but do they need 6 years and $120 million to get that out of him?
Well, I would say it's according to what the contracts broke down for, Steve, because you may only have, the first couple of years guaranteed. Do you have those numbers yet, Dan?
Yes, I do. So it's $51.5 million guaranteed, but only $45 million of that is fully guaranteed only.
How many years is that? What is it, years versus money?
It's a 6-year deal. Officially,
so, but all 6 years aren't guaranteed.
No.
So they could cut him. No. They could cut him after 1 year. He still gets the $45 million.
Yes, they could cut him tomorrow, and he still gets the $45 million unless he does something bad.
I'm gonna tell you what. It must be really nice to have money.
It must be really friggin' nice.
But you know what? This is
really
the thing.
Friggin' nice.
This is the thing.
You can spend $45 million to have Von Miller play football for you.
But when you get the percentage of concussions, CTE, and everything players get, I'm not going to bitch about a player making $45 million guaranteed
I'm
when
not
the owner's worth
Von
billions
Miller
of dollars.
All.
Yeah,
absolutely not. This is not on Von Miller. Good God, take the money and run.
And I think it's a great signing by Buffalo. It definitely upgrades the defense almost immediately.
Yeah, hell yeah. Except I just looked. It's 85 and sunny and beautiful in LA today. It's 32 and spitting some snow in Buffalo right now.
Well, I mean, Buffalo adding Von Miller is a huge get. It instantly bolsters their pass rush. They had their top 2 pass rushers are currently free agents in Jerry Hughes. Their veteran stud defensive end presence is one of them, and we know that the Bills do like to have that beefy front line. They signed him. They signed O.J. Howard today, the Tampa Bay Bucks tight end. And even though Howard hasn't been quite right in his career, this is a really good signing. It's a 1-year deal. And, I mean, they're loading up. They got Roger Saffold. They've added some really quality players, Daquan Jones and Tim Settle, to add depth on the inside of that line. It's some really, really good stuff. I like what Buffalo's been doing thus far. And they're setting
which hence is why Dan has now become a Bills fan and bought a Josh Allen jersey.
Well, the ratings I'm looking at so far give the Bills an A in free agent signings.
Yeah, that's not too far off, man. And actually, I do want to jump to the Colts because your boys made finally made some sort of a move. They traded for Yannick Ngakoue today from the Vegas Raiders, and they actually sent out Rock Ya-Sin, the corner that they drafted a couple of years ago in the second round, or maybe the end of the first round. But anyway, they traded him for Yannick Ngakoue pretty much straight up.
See, my issue with that is this. Ngakoue, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is his 5th team since the start of training camp in 2020. Isn't that kind of a red flag?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I know the Colts have no edge rushers right now to speak of. And if the guy can give us 1 year or 2 years, I'll take it right now, just to be able to put some pressure on a quarterback, and bolster up our defensive line. So, yeah, I think it's always a red flag when you got a guy trading teams that frequently. But what are you going to do? That's the way it bounces right now.
Yeah, hold on here. We got Bobby, your buddy Bobby. Nice Josh Allen jersey, Dan. What are you guys dating? Is that your new bandwagon team after the Chiefs didn't work out? So wait a second. Bobby, was Dan a Chiefs fan? I like the hashtag you suck, too.
I love that hashtag. Bob learned well.
So you were a Chiefs fan. That's why you were so upset when I said Joe Burrow would beat the Chiefs on 2 separate occasions, and I was right both times.
Oh, no, I was upset with you because it was just an awful take, and I hated it when you said that Joe Burrow's the best quarterback this year.
But he is.
I hated it. I hate it right now. It's wrong.
It's wrong, but it's actually right. Who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now, then?
Nah. If it's not Mahomes, then I don't know who it is.
Oh, you don't know who it is. Okay. I'm sorry, but there's 2 guys better than Patrick Mahomes, and they both start with the letter J. Josh Allen's not better than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's been a place Josh Allen has never been, but I think Josh Allen will be there shortly. I mean, what is the outlook on getting a running back in Buffalo?
I think that is the big piece that they're missing. And from everything that I've read thus far this offseason, they are doing a lot of work on the running back position. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of those teams that take a running back maybe at the back end of the first round. If not, then they could definitely take one in the second round.
All right, Bobby is definitely busting your balls right now. He said he was done dealing with the Lions, so he was going with a winner, hence the Chiefs. And, of course, now, when a Lions fan picks a new team, that team will never win as long as he is a fan of that team because he is just
Bengals
jinxed.
Fan.
You know what? I've been a Bengals fan since I was born, the same year they were. Nothing has ever changed that, no matter how much I bitch about them. I never said, I'm going to go be a Colts fan when Peyton Manning was there, because that is, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong here, but wouldn't you consider that a bitch move to give up on your team simply because they're not winning?
Yeah, very much a bitch move. I've been a Colts fan through thick and thin since the day they came to Indianapolis. Matter of fact, I walked on the field with Bob Irsay, and the owners. I was part of the indirectly part of the negotiating committee from Indianapolis.
For what?
When they negotiated the deal to bring the Colts to Indianapolis.
No, you weren't.
I was. I was Dan Quayle's assistant, and he was helping get federal money and stuff.
Well, Dan Quayle was helping. You were just you were
well,
wiping Dan Quayle's ass and flipping his balls.
I got to walk on the field.
Damn.
I got to walk on the field.
Come on, Risley was 6'8", 260 pounds. He walked on the field because he was security. Nothing.
I wasn't 260 pounds when I walked on the field back in 1984.
All right, real quick, Joseph Michael says, Dan, I think you're a bitch. All right, let's see.
Come on, Joe. I thought we were cool. Damn, Joe.
You know, I just finished a 50-minute NASCAR show with him. He does not like you.
No, that's all he does. He calls me sometimes in the middle of the night and says, do you think we could go to Dan's house? I said, he lives in Jersey. He said, I don't care. I'm the coroner of one of the largest counties in southeastern Indiana. I'll damn well do what I please.
He said he's got a gun, a badge, and handcuffs, and you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You better hope he uses the gun and the badge and not just the handcuffs. Let's put it that way.
He doesn't like you, though. Seriously. I don't know what it is.
Oh no!
What?
I feel so disappointed.
Oh yeah, like he's the only person. Love. Hey, you know what? Cool, if you want to cheer yourself up, you know what you could do, Dan? You could head over and see for yourself. Betting.net makes it easy to find all the legal online casinos or sports books in your state. So, I think what you could do is also, I think Fan Duel is the sponsor, or is the main link to this show to bet the games. And I know that they called me today, and they're putting out an odd sheet on which team Dan will cheer for by week 4 of next year. So right now, I mean, the Bengals are the favorite because they're the best team in the NFL. But that could change, and all of a sudden, Dan could go jinx another team. So
it's the Fan Duel now?
It's Fan Duel for today.
Oh, what happened to Caesar Sportsbook?
Joe said, Dan, that's all made up. Yes, Joe actually lives in a trailer park, and he's a school bus driver. All right.
Hey, I want to know, Joe, did you listen to how Mike did that? Because, good God, you got to work on Joe doing the commercial. Whoa, is it dry? It's as dry as the reservoirs in Los Angeles right now. There ain't no water in those reservoirs out here.
All right, Dan, what else do we have, Dan, today?
Yeah, let's get back to it.
At least for today, there's been a few other moves of note. Former Jacksonville linebacker went to Pittsburgh on a 2-year deal. The big one, of course, besides Von Miller, was Chandler Jones, leaving Arizona as a free agent, going over to the Raiders on a 3-year, $52.5 million deal. That comes with $34 million guaranteed. And I don't have any details on if that has an opt-out, but it's only a 3-year deal, so maybe after 2 years, perhaps. But either way, one of the premier pass rushers goes out to the near West Coast, and suddenly that AFC West is looking real scary.
Didn't it seem weird to you, Dan, that the Patriots traded their guard Shaq Mason to the Buccaneers right after Tom Brady had decided to come back and Alex Kappa jumped to the Bengals? So Bill Belichick said, here's your new starting guard. I thought that was nice of the Buccaneers, or nice of the Patriots.
It was a really, really thoughtful, heady move, and Bill's just trying to take care of his former quarterback. That's what that is.
But I mean, actually, it kind of looks that way because to me, this is probably an A- to an A move for the Patriots, and probably a C move for the Patriots and an A move for the Buccaneers. Because the Buccaneers were down 2 starting guards because if you remember, Ali Marpet basically retired, a week or 2 ago, and then they lose Alex Kappa in free agency to the Bengals. Another team that it looks to me, just from glancing through here, 2 teams that have made a lot of moves, if you want to talk about them, are the New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and I mean, with both of these two teams, with the Jaguars, I was talking about this on the draft show with Sam yesterday. They're making a lot of moves, but they're just honestly just making it rain at this point. Brandon Scherf, Darius Williams, who they signed today, the corner from the Rams, Evan Ingram, tight end from the Giants, Zay Jones, receiver from the Raiders. The big one, Christian Kirk, the receiver they signed from Arizona. Folorunsho Fatukasi, the D lineman from the Jets.
Could you repeat that, please?
Folorunsho Fatukasi.
I knew you wouldn't say it near as good as you did the first time. Go ahead.
And Foye Olukun. There we go. Foye Olukun.
I'm
the
betting you're getting that
linebacker
one wrong.
from the Falcons. So they signed a bunch of these guys. Scherf is the biggest name, but
how much did they give Scherf?
I mean, Scherf is getting less than Christian Kirk, which is
Scherf's hurt all the time.
Scherf was 3 years, 49.50.
Damn. I mean,
49.5.
when's the last time that dude played an entire season?
Like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like everybody keeps throwing because he is a hell of a guard. He's one of the best guards in football. But does it matter when you're hurt all the time? Now, the interesting thing to me, break down the New York Jets for me, because it looks to me like the Jets and Jaguars are both trying to make themselves relevant. I think the Jaguars signed a lot of guys. I think a couple guys will help, but I think a lot of those guys like Zay Jones, I mean, what the hell is that? So you could draft somebody in the third round, give you what Zay Jones gives you. But go ahead, Dan. New York Jets. Tell us about the Jets.
The Jets, I like the Jets' moves a lot more thus far this offseason. They started by signing Laken Tomlinson, the guard from San Francisco, former Detroit Lion, to a 3-year, $40 million contract. They signed one of your boys, CJ Uzoma, tight end from Cincinnati, on a 3-year deal, $24 million, $15 million guaranteed. They signed DJ Reed, the defensive back from Seattle, plays a little bit of corner, plays a little bit of safety. They signed him to a 3-year deal as well. They signed Jordan Whitehead from Tampa Bay on a 2-year contract, and they're bringing in Tyler Conklin, the blocking tight end from Minnesota. And honestly, I like these moves a lot more than I like Jacksonville's. Mostly, I don't like Jacksonville's because of how much money they spent on a bunch of mediocre talents, guys who are not worth that much. And I know Christian Kirk's contract is a little deceptive. A lot of these contracts are deceptive because you'll see a guy like Christian Kirk who's getting on average like $20 million a year, which would put him, I think, as the third highest paid receiver in the NFL. But his salary cap hit this year is only like $8 million. And he has an opt-out after a couple of years. So really that $72 million deal is probably like 2 years, $30 million, with $8 million against the cap this year. So it's not terrible, but it's still too much for a guy like him. But the Jets, on the other hand, they spread that money around. Tomlinson is a stud guard. He'll plug right in. The interior is set for the Jets.
You made the secondary a lot better too.
Yep, DJ Reed and or Whitehead will start at safety for them. If Reed doesn't start at safety, he could be their one of their.
I think Reed will be the corner. I think Whitehead will be the safety. I think the best signing out of all of these, though, is Laken Tomlinson. To get him for a little over $13 million a year, I think is a great deal. I think he's one of the better guards in football. Does CJ Uzama doesn't make much sense to me. He's not worth $8 million a year. I mean, I love CJ Uzama. He's a great team leader. But I mean, hell, this was his best year. And what did he have, like 500? I don't know that he's had 1,500 receiving yards in 7 seasons.
Yeah, and he also has an opt-out. So his is an opt-out after 2 years. Then after that, they can opt out of the contract and owe him nothing. So it's not terrible. But yeah, I agree with you. I think $8 million is a little too high for a guy like him. But they had money to blow. And even with all those signings, they still sit third in the league with a little over $37 million in cap space. So they could still make some more moves here. But the free agency, the top quality guys that matter, those are starting to dwindle.
Actually, there's still a fair amount of the bigger time linemen left, aren't there?
Nah, I mean, I was talking
Armstead
about
got signed?
Armstead's the only big name on the offensive line that's left. I was talking about this with Sam last night. I was telling him all these teams, there's like 25 teams that still need offensive line help at least one of their offensive line spots. Minimum 25, maybe even the whole league needs at least
the whole league. The whole league needs at least one offensive lineman.
Okay, and there's not that much to go around.
All right, which other teams you want to touch on, Dan?
I mean, we can't really talk free agency if we're not going to talk about what the Chargers have done so far. They re-signed Mike Williams. They brought in J.C. Jackson from the Patriots on a big fat contract. They traded for Khalil Mack from the Bears, which was a steal.
Really? You think that's a steal?
I mean, they didn't really give up that much for him.
What are they paying him?
His deal this year, I think he's making $23.5 million this upcoming year.
Has he played like he's worth $23.5 million?
Not last year, but they're hoping that that's a mirage.
That may not be easy to do for the Bears either.
Actually, I don't think he's played that well the last 2 years. I thought his first year in Chicago, he was great. I think he's been down since then, and I don't think it's because I think J.C. Jackson is a great signing. But I look at these, I mean, they have an issue stopping the run. You added Khalil Mack, but, I mean, you get Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day. Those don't seem like big-time run stoppers unless I'm wrong here. I mean, Day's an all right player, but they're paying him $8 million a year.
Yeah, that's a pretty chunk of change, but I think this sets them up perfectly to take Jordan Davis, the mammoth defensive tackle from Georgia, in the first round. Even though there's questions if he really
where did they pick in the first round?
If he could bring any interior pressure or middle of the first round. I think they're like 16th or 17th.
Well, the scariest thing with defense, I think defensive tackles.
The range for a talent like him is.
But I think defensive tackle is one of those positions where we've seen more often than not guys do not, if they were great college players, necessarily become great NFL players at D tackle for some reason. I mean, we've seen it for years with D tackles that were drafted really high. What was it, Solomon Thomas for the 49ers? He ended up being a D end and getting traded. I remember Big Daddy Wilkinson back in the day with the Bengals, John Copeland. There's so many defensive tackles that have been bust that I think is one of the bigger bust positions in the NFL. And my issue with the Chargers is, I mean, did they make up ground? I mean, the Chiefs have made some signings too. You want to talk about the Chiefs a little bit? And I know they lost Honey Badger, but they also replaced him today, didn't they?
Yes. So Kansas City hasn't made many moves, but they did bring in Justin Reed, safety from Houston, as a free agent. 25-year-old guy, gave him like $10.5 million a year, pretty much. $20 million guaranteed. So he's probably going to be starting for Honey Badger. And to be honest, of all the AFC West teams, I mean, the Broncos got, Russell Wilson. The Chargers added J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack, brought back Williams. The Raiders are doing their thing thus far, bringing in Chandler Jones is a huge get. Rock Ya-Sin will be a starter for them on the outside, probably. The Chiefs are that's falling behind. And
I don't know how. I don't know how they can fall behind if they're already ahead. They don't need as many things. My issue with the Chiefs, though, Justin Reed was kind of a necessity to replace Honey Badger, but I don't know if I'd have re-signed Frank Clark. 2 years, $29 million with a max deal of $36 million with incentives. You brought back Orlando Brown, which is good, but there's nothing else there. And the Chiefs need defensive help, and the only thing they did is take Honey Badger and replace him with Justin Reed. I mean, there's nothing else here. So what I'm saying is the other teams needed to do more to catch up to the Chiefs, but the Chiefs didn't do enough to keep that distance between them, if you know what I mean. I don't think any of these teams passed the Chiefs necessarily, but they got in the ballpark with them. And if you're in the ballpark with them, you got a shot. And this Chiefs team, defensively, I just don't know how they're going to get better. And, I mean, really, they were all right last year defensively, but not like they were 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. And with the addition of Russell Wilson in Denver, you better have a damn good defense, especially a secondary here. I don't know that that's the Chiefs because I watched the Chiefs, and I know everybody talked about how great they played for like the last half of the season until they got to Cincinnati, and then they played Cincinnati again. And teams with 2 or 3 receivers that are legitimately good gave them trouble. The Chargers, I think, beat them earlier in the year, didn't they?
Yeah.
And the Broncos almost beat them at the end of the season. So they were starting off ahead. If they would have just signed a couple pass rushers or a couple D tackles, I could have seen it. But Frank Clark, I don't think is worth that much money a year.
Neither do I. I think he's just a guy who was more of a necessity than anything. And they knew they couldn't afford to lose a guy like Honey Badger and lose Frank Clark as well. Even though he's not worth the money, they didn't have any money to bring anybody else in. So it's a necessity.
Yeah, but you would have had the money you gave him to bring it. You probably could have brought 2 guys in. They probably would have gave you more bang for your buck than 1 guy. So,
I mean,
also you look at, we'll talk, Steve, Randy Gregory is a Denver Bronco. He said he was going to sign with Dallas, and then he realized Jerry Jones still owned the team, so he decided to get the hell out of there. He went to Denver. Randy Gregory got a 5-year, $70 million deal that includes $28 million guaranteed.
Good for him.
But is it good for the Broncos?
I think Randy Gregory is a player. I think the guy, if you can get him to stay healthy and keep his head screwed on straight, I think he's a good guy. The scary part about Randy Gregory, on all honesty, marijuana is legal in Colorado.
Dude, he was doing it either way because you can't get suspended in the NFL for it anymore.
I know, but it's like I don't know. But in terms of talent-wise, I think Randy Gregory is a good get for them. That's a lot of money to spend, but money does not seem to be an object for these guys this year, for anybody in the NFL. But I like the move. I think he's going to help that team defensively if you get him to stay healthy and keep his head screwed on straight. $10 question.
Real quick, I had another question for you, Steve, about the Colts. And Dan, are those rumors? I mean, I see all kind of rumors on Colts sites saying that they could possibly get Matt Ryan. Could you see that happening?
Oh, I could absolutely see that happening. I think Matt Ryan, aside from Jimmy G, who's probably the favorite, Jimmy G, Matt Ryan, and Baker Mayfield, I think is another name to look out for because Cleveland is not happy with Baker. They've come out today and said that they want an adult at quarterback, which is, I mean, if you want an indictment on your quarterback.
Well, who said that, by the way?
It was reported. I don't recall.
So they need an adult at head coach. They need an adult at GM. An adult as an owner would help also. So I don't know why you would start with the least of the worries when you're run by a guy who's an absolute moron, who was federally investigated, who probably should be in jail, but somehow he got away with it. And then the GM and the head coach, to me, Baker Mayfield was hurt most of the year. That was proven by the way he got surgery once they were out of the playoff running. He got him to the playoffs last year. He won a game. But, Steve, Matt Ryan would be the best quarterback you guys have had since Andrew Luck.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
and
definitely.
you could go to the playoffs with Matt Ryan.
No doubt. What's Matt Ryan's age?
35?
35, 36.
So,
yeah.
But he's probably going to want a long-term commitment.
Nah.
From the Colts.
Yeah. He's already got a contract. It would have to be a trade, correct, Dan?
Yep, it's a trade only. They're not going to release him. It's way too big of a cap hit to cut him flat out. Even if they trade him, it's like a $40 million dead cap hit, something like that, something real crazy.
I don't know that Matt Ryan is worth $40 million against your cap.
He is 37 years old.
Yeah, he's not worth $40 million against your cap. I don't think so.
Okay,
I would rather.
So this is my question, Steve.
He was the
Yeah, to beat against the Falcons, not the Colts. But here's the thing, Steve. Matt Ryan, if you'd had Matt Ryan this year, you would have won the division and made the playoffs. I don't think you'd have went farther because I still think there's wide receiver issues there.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gone any farther. We would have done what Carson Wentz should have done for us.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's been an elite quarterback in the NFL for well over a decade.
Yeah,
I would take him if I was you because the only option is this. Right now, the way I look at it, you get Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo, or you just tank the damn season and hope you get one of the top picks for next year.
All right. Well, let me ask you this, Mike or Dan. There has been no talk out of the Colts camp on quarterback, and even the stats I'm looking at say the clock is ticking on a QB addition, unless they've got a draft day surprise up their sleeve. Are they negotiating with one person and just keeping it quiet until they cut the deal?
Well, I think I did hear the other day, Dan, that they did talk to Deshaun Watson or requested to, didn't they?
They requested to talk to him, but the Texans would not do it. They would not allow it. And the Texans have that power because he's still under contract.
Okay, so that basically is going to leave Matt Ryan or Jimmy G. If they want a branded quarterback right now.
And well, if you want a chance to win right now, those are your two choices.
Those are your two choices. So it seems to me, because the Colts have been so quiet, that they're talking to somebody and cutting a deal, and they just don't want to talk about it. Because you would have thought Jimmy G would have been scooped up by now too, if he's available.
Well, people have to trade for Jimmy G, though, so the 49ers can play hardball, if you know what I mean, and try to get more. But the problem is the hardball goes for the other teams because Jimmy G, everybody knows, is going to be a free agent after this year.
Yeah, and I'm afraid anybody that wants to give up Jimmy G from the Colts is going to want, either JT or our offensive lineman. What's his name?
The 49ers don't need linemen, and they don't need running backs. This is what the 49ers...
What about the linebacker?
Hey.
I'm drawing a... I've been...
Darius Leonard?
What?
No. Ain't nobody giving Jimmy G up for Darius Leonard. What you got is this.
Well, the Colts have nothing to offer.
They do. They do for Jimmy Garoppolo, and they do for Matt Ryan, because a second-round pick...
What do they have to offer?
They got a second-round pick. You're not giving up nobody's giving up a first-round pick for a 37-year-old Matt Ryan. Right. Nobody's giving up a first pick to a team that knows Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a freaking free agent next year. So, with those two quarterbacks, you have a legitimate chance if you want them.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's still hope. You got to keep hope alive.
No, I do. I believe the Colts are just keeping their mouths shut, and they've done that historically. They've not been one of these flamboyant free agent teams. All of a sudden, you just turn around and somebody's at their, Eric Dickerson's on your team. You're like, what? Where the hell did that come? How did Eric Dickerson come to the Colts?
Well, that's because Eric Dickerson wanted the hell out of L.A. and was refusing to play in 1987.
Yeah, and then all he does is live in L.A. and do play-by-play for the Rams and win into the Hall of Fame as a Ram.
But you got to give Eric Dickerson
like he's the only person that knows anything about the Rams.
Dude, if this is the thing,
most people
Eric
in L.A.
Dickerson,
can't stand Eric Dickerson.
Wait a second. Eric Dickerson came to Indianapolis and actually won you guys a division, and you made the playoffs, and you got smoked 24-9 by the Browns. But he did get you to the playoffs. What rushing record was that?
Didn't he run for 2,200 yards at the time?
No, that was with the Rams in 1984.
I thought that was with the Colts. He broke 2,000.
No, he didn't. No? Not with the Colts. I don't think he did. Dan's looking it up. I can tell by the way he's looking down at his computer. But I know he had a year, I think he was like 1,500 or 1,600 maybe. What do you got, Dan?
My computer's a little slow. But, okay, here we go. He never ran for 2,000 in Indianapolis. The most he ran for was 1,659 in 1988. And he ran for 2,105 in 1984.
Yeah.
All right. He went nuts on Monday Night Football one night.
Yeah, 55-10 against the Denver Broncos on Halloween. I think that was in 1988. It might have been 87, but I think
300 yards.
Because the great thing was, as a Bengals fan, in 1988, the Colts almost made the playoffs. The Colts were 8-7, and they were playing the Buffalo Bills last game of the season at the old Hoosier Dome. For the Bengals to have home field advantage, they needed the Colts to win. The Colts actually upset the Bills 21-17, but then Cleveland beat Houston by like 2 points, which knocked the Colts out of the playoffs. Or the Colts would have made the playoffs in back-to-back years. Eric Dickerson is the greatest pure runner outside of O.J. Simpson I ever saw.
I agree.
Yo, that man was a beast.
He just showed up in Indianapolis one day. It's like he wasn't on anybody's radar screen.
Yeah, who did you guys trade for him? Was it... Because I know Charles White took over for him. So the Rams still had Charles White. What'd you do, fart, Dan? I saw Dan go like that. It usually means you farted.
No, it was a little fruit fly floating on me.
In Indiana, isn't that the common sign that you farted, Steve? You go like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yo, I got the Eric Dickerson trade. So it was a 10-player trade. It was on Halloween Day in 1987. So I wasn't even – I was what, 3 weeks old?
I was in college.
So the Rams traded Dickerson to the Colts in a 3-team deal that also included the Bills, 10 total draft picks and players were moved in this trade. And it ended up being, oh my God, this is crazy. Even for, damn, shit was going down back in 87. All right, so the Rams traded Dickerson, and they received Greg Bell, Owen Gill, Buffalo's number 1, Indianapolis is number 1, 88, Indianapolis 88, and they Buffalo's
Goodpaster just shot.
Yeah, Buffalo's number 1 and number 2 in 89. And then
he just shot his 2 dogs.
For the Colts, they traded Owen Gill, the rights to Cornelius Bennett, a linebacker.
Oh, he was good too. Yeah.
First and second round picks in 88, second round pick in 89 to get Dickerson. That's a haul. The Rams made out like
Dickerson proved his worth in Indianapolis, so he was.
I'm back.
He was worth.
We had somebody knocked on the door, and Jerry Cooney Dog, who's a coon dog, he gets mad and wants to kill everything. So.
Yeah, we thought you went and shot and killed your dogs.
Why would I shoot and kill my dogs? I was shooting and kill whoever knocked on the freaking door. People should know better than that. You don't knock on my door.
I'm the same way.
You don't tug on Superman's cape.
Yeah, you don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Mike's dogs.
With Jim. Have you ever heard of Jim Croce, Dan?
Jim Croce is my favorite ballad singer of all time.
Wait a second. What? You've never heard of Jim Croce?
You've never heard of Jim Croce?
Is he a country singer or something?
Oh my God!
He's a balladeer.
Operator?
Bad Leroy Brown.
Bad Leroy Brown. You never heard Bad Leroy Brown?
I Got a Name. That's his best song.
I'm under 50.
Got a Name.
Right? What the hell does that matter? I mean, he died when I was 6, and I know who he was.
Time in a Bottle. If I could put time in a bottle.
You never heard If I Could Put Time in a Bottle? The first thing that I'd like to do.
Put time in a bottle. The first
I know that
thing
song.
that I'd like to do.
Oh, I remember that song. That was in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I got a name.
Wait, Dan
and I carry it with me, what my daddy did, and it gets me going. Something like that.
Come on, if you got to the chorus, I'd have sang it with you, but you didn't.
Moving me down the highway, moving me down the highway, moving me down and watching life go by.
Boom, boom, boom.
1973. Holy shit.
Plane crash in Louisiana.
73 or 74 is when he died, wasn't it, Steve?
73, I thought.
I remember being like 5 years old early in 73 and actually watching a concert TV special with Jim Croce that you can find on YouTube.
When I was in high school,
right now.
Just before I went out in my locker room, I had a tape player, and I played that song just before I went out and listened to it on my own.
Which song?
Bad Leroy Brown.
There you go. You've never heard You've never heard Bad Leroy Brown?
Working at the car wash. I know that song.
That's my favorite.
Oh, that's Rose Royce.
Got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues.
Who was in that movie? Richard Pryor, George Carlin, who else? You ever see the car wash?
Franklin Jai?
No. You need to see the car wash. You haven't even seen Blazing Saddles yet.
I haven't. I've been looking. It's not on anything that I.
It's on Netflix or.
It's on HBO Max. I know that.
It's on HBO Max.
You got to pay for that.
HBO.
No, you don't. Well, you got to pay to have HBO Max, but you don't pay it once you got it.
Well, all you got to do is sign up for the free week, watch everything you want to watch, and don't watch it anymore. Just don't watch that Lakers. Just don't watch the show about the Lakers because that sucks.
Oh, you know what? It sucks, but it's kind of funny.
I know. I still watch it, but it's like stupid.
It is stupid.
I mean, it's really stupid. And they trash Jerry West big time.
I don't get why they're trashing Jerry West so bad.
I don't know either.
Yeah, what's that about?
I don't know. It's
about the rise. It's 79, the rise of the Laker.
It's kind of the Lakers. I don't think
Lakers Celtics dynasty.
I don't think Red Auerbach would have ever went to the Playboy Mansion with.
I don't either. Yeah.
No, with Jerry Buss or whatever the hell his name was.
Yeah, I don't think there was any love lost between.
But that's when the NBA was good. Is there any other moves you want to talk about, Dan, before we just turn this into a show about 70s music?
In terms of name guys or whatever, Julio Jones was released by the Titans, saved them about $11 million in cap space.
If I was the Ravens, I'd jump all over that, though.
He's a shell of his former self.
Which would make him the #1 receiver in Baltimore.
He would be, because I don't trust Marquise Brown at all. But no. But he's a free agent, so we'll see. His body's breaking down. It sucks to see. And Zadarius Smith was released by the Green Bay Packers in a cap move. He went back to Baltimore, where he was drafted, I think, in the 4th round or something like that. So he goes back home, back to the team that picked him. And that's honestly, in terms of names and stuff like that, that's really it for the last 24
When does the free agency period end?
Oh, we still got 2 or 3 weeks at least, don't we?
Technically, it doesn't end.
It's just open from here on out then.
But it's usually done in about 3 or 4 weeks.
All right.
Yeah. By the draft,
so we didn't finish my brokenhearted move here. You two guys, what are the Colts? Who are they going to get? Are they going to go with the Atlanta quarterback, or are they going with Jimmy G?
I think Jimmy G ends up in New Orleans. I think the question is, where's Deshaun Watson end up? Because I think everything kind of falls from where Deshaun Watson goes.
But I don't think the Colts going to need to trade for him.
Huh?
Oh, no.
Colts don't have anything to trade for him.
No, I don't know. And they're not going to want to trade him in the division.
They're not trading him in the division anyway. No. They're not going to want him play. They're going to want to play against him.
No, it looked like Pittsburgh made a run for it, but then they signed Mitch Trubisky, and then they signed Miles Jack. So it looks to me like Pittsburgh, instead of trying to find a quarterback to combat Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in the division, have decided they're just going to try to sack them every time.
Why not?
Because
Why not?
I know what's going to happen.
What's going to happen?
Freaking Colts are going to end up with Jared Goff somehow. Mark
my
words.
I would like to see Deshaun Watson go to Detroit.
Yeah, and Goff comes to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That's a win-win for Houston.
Come to Detroit for what?
To win a Super Bowl. You know what? Hey, it's the same thing would have been said if somebody had said, Joe Burrow ought to go to Cincinnati because he could go to the Super Bowl. Everybody would have laughed.
No, that's more believable than Deshaun Watson bringing Detroit to a Super Bowl.
I think Deshaun Watson is an absolute stud. I think he's one of the 3 or 4 best guys in the NFL when he's ready to go. So I think anywhere he goes, they're a contender. He took some really bad Houston teams to the playoffs.
Detroit, though? With Houston? Our knee biters? Really?
What are you talking about, the fans?
No, I'm talking about our coach with all his knee biters and fighters that he's got on his roster, all the knee-biting fiends. Gross. Team's a joke. Jesus himself couldn't lead Detroit to the promised land, all right?
I'm betting Jesus could.
I'm taking the under.
Hey, you know what? If you want to take the under, you got to go check out Fan Duel Sportsbook, which is in the link to the description of the show. Go to YouTube, like us, subscribe to us, check us, send a picture of your boobs to Dan. All right, and remember, you can head over now and see for yourself. Betting.net makes it easy to find all the legal online casinos or sportsbooks in your state. I forgot to say women only, though, Dan, so Joe's probably going to send you a picture of his boobs tonight. All right, Dan, or what's his name? Joe says, I heard the Lions were making the move to the USFL in hopes of making the playoffs. There's already a team in Detroit. There's the Michigan Panthers, and they used to play at the Pontiac Silverdome, and they won a USFL championship. They won the first one in 1983.
Lions would still miss the playoffs in the USFL. Guys suck.
Actually, chances are probably everybody will miss the playoffs in the USFL because the season will be done by week 4. But we've seen this before. The USFL is not going to work because there's not enough quality quarterbacks for 32 NFL teams. How the hell are you going to get quality quarterbacks to play in the USFL?
You're not.
No. I mean, remember this. When the USFL looked good, at least their best teams, you had guys like Jim Kelly and them playing quarterback, Steve Young. Those were guys that were paid a lot of money, which these guys are not going to be, coming out of college to not go to the NFL. Plus, you had, four less NFL teams back then? So there's 4 more groups of rosters there that could have been picked up by the USFL. And this is not the USFL. They use the name, they use the logo, but it's not the USFL. All the games are being played in Alabama. How do you draw a fan base by playing games in one centralized location and then playing a championship game in Canton, Ohio, where I don't even think there's a team close to Canton, Ohio?
Where are they going to play?
They've got a field there.
Which one? A championship game? They're going to play at the Hall of Fame Stadium field.
At the Hall of Fame field or whatever?
They're playing at the Hall, and they're playing
game?
Yeah, and they're playing at Legion Field for all the regular season games, which I don't even know if Legion Field's been used forever. UAB might play there, but
they've expanded the Hall of Fame field. It's bigger than it was when we visited.
It won't have to be that big. I mean, if it won't. They could take it to the local high school field. I mean, hell, Massillon seats 18,000. That'll be 3 times more than what they need. I hate to be so positive, but I've seen this before, and I wish to God one of these leagues would work, but they just don't. I mean, I've been involved in these leagues before, and all it is a bunch of rich or people that are credit card rich, credit card millionaires. And it gets to the point where you get to about week 4, and all of a sudden, hey, the check I just gave you today after the game on Sunday, can you wait till Thursday to cash that? That is always code for you may get that check, but the team is done after that. That's happened to me repeatedly. And it's a cluster because also those owners never have the money to back it up. And I know Fox or CBS or whoever the hell's behind this supposedly putting $300 million in, but we heard the same thing with that AAF. You remember they had a guy there, he was willing to take a loss for 3 years, but 6 weeks later the league was done. Yeah. So, and what'll happen is the first week the ratings will be awesome, and everybody's going to say, "Oh shit, this is going to work. That wasn't bad football." By the time you get to week 3, everybody's watching baseball, golf, and God forbid NASCAR. But since now we have a NASCAR show with the immortal Joseph Michael, the coroner / what else is he? He's a doctor. I think he is a blacksmith, and he's a police officer. And then you got Steve Risley, who was an Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame member. He went to the Indy 500 during the 80s, but doesn't remember it because anybody that went there, if you remember it, you didn't really go. I mean, he won a national championship. He won an NIT championship. He got drafted by the Phoenix Suns. I mean, come on. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch that NASCAR show?
I don't even like NASCAR, and I kind of want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it last week, and I was giddy with excitement.
I haven't even told my story about the first time I saw sex.
Please tell us, Steve. This is how we can wrap this show up. He said the first time he saw sex. Tell us, Steve. Tell us.
It may have been before I ever had sex.
Well, it probably was. You said the first time you saw it, you just had sex like 20 years ago. I mean, when is the first time you saw it?
We were in the snake pit. And if you don't know, the Indy 500.
That sounds like a gay strip club, Steve, but go ahead.
And there was an area in the first turn that was called the snake pit, and it's where everybody that didn't give a damn about the race but just gave a damn about drinking beer went.
I thought that was everybody that went to the race.
No, there are a lot
of
people
race.
There were 260,000 people that actually sat in the seats and watched the race. But there was this group of people that was probably 10 to 15,000 strong that went to the snake pit. And it was just a debauchery of all debaucheries. And I was,
I think you've told me this story before, but go ahead.
I don't even think I was in high school yet, truthfully, because the people I was with were not my high school friends. They were my grade school friends. And we got dropped off. It used to be you had to get in a line to go to the Indy 500 like the day before, the night before. And you lined up, and they opened the gates at 6 o'clock. And everybody would pile in and park in the infield, get their spots. And the first turn was the place to go for the idiots, and they would go there. And it was a famous place called the Snake Pit. Well, we were wandering around, and there was a crowd around this pickup truck, a huge crowd, and we didn't know, so we were all young kids. We walked up and milled our way to the front, and back there in the bed, the guy had a mattress, and they were just, if it's a rockin', don't come knocking. Right out and for everybody to watch.
So how long did you stand and watch?
For about
no more than 20 minutes.
The whole 2 minutes it took the guy to finish his business.
Well, yeah, it's because everybody's watching him. It was creepy.
I know, it was.
It sounded like a good idea when he did it. But it's one of the things you get into it and you look over and there's a couple 700-pounders sitting there salivating. You're thinking, man, this was a bad idea. This is not how I dreamed.
Probably the first time I ever saw a naked girl. Yeah, it's a lot of firsts on that one.
Was she hot or not?
I don't think I ever saw
she was naked. You were 9. She was hot.
Yeah, she was hot.
All right, guys, we're gonna stop this show right here with the snake pit story. And I think on the headline it's gonna be: listen to Steve Risley, national champion, explain the first time he saw sex. That would probably get a ton of views. That's clickbait.
There was a lot more to that story, but
how am I supposed to know what is going on?
In order to save time, that's a 10,000-foot view of what was going on.
All right, Steve. Dan, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes.
Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, Dan. Twitter. Come on.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. The tag is DB Talking Sports. D as in Dan, B as in Bob.
And you can find Steve Risley at srisley34. I would ask him to tell you, but he usually forgets.
No, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
That's what I just said.
And I'm trying desperately to get back on. Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back into our Twitter account. So anytime you change a phone number, it's hard to do. But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap it up. If you like Indiana basketball, which who doesn't? We will be live after the Indiana St. Mary's game on Thursday night, approximately 9:30, between 9:30 and 10. To wrap that up, we'll be back with the NFL show again next week, Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Sound good, guys?
Sounds beautiful.
Sounds good to me.
Can't wait.
And make sure you check out Joe Spillman and Steve Risley's NASCAR show, which I did earlier tonight. You can find that on Facebook. But for now, we're going to go ahead. And should we wrap it up, Dan, or should I give you a special insight into something you should do?
Mike, is the NASCAR show only on Facebook? Is it not on Spotify and all those places?
Oh, yeah, it's on all those places, too.
Well, announce that, please. We're trying to get an audience.
I know, but I figured since everybody here is watching us on Facebook, it would be, we could just go back and watch the NASCAR show.
Well, maybe somebody's watching us on Spotify.
All right, you can watch anywhere you find podcasts. You find The Grilling Truth, and you can find the NASCAR show there. Now, you can also find the top sportsbook comparison site, betting.net. They offer extensive reviews on the best sportsbooks out there. Make sure you check them out, and make sure you go check out Fan Duel, which will be in the link on the description of this show. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. For Dan Kornhauser, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching The Grueling Truth, where the